Classic Conversations is brought to you by Palm Springs Life magazine, celebrating 50 years of bringing art and culture to Southern California.
The Michael H. Lord Gallery in Palm Springs is proud to support public television. Learn more about our paintings, photography, and sculpture at michaelhlordgallery.com or at our North Palm Canyon location. Michael H. Lord Gallery, an oasis of contemporary art since 1978.
The Camelot Theaters, bringing you retrospective, documentary, and art films, foreign and award-winning motion pictures. And the following: Dr. Betty Baxter, certified life coach and consultant; Cash Baxter, the Betty M. Barker Trust; Serp and John Conti Foundation, and the Stephen Philibosian Foundation, supporting the arts, and the Virginia Waring International Piano Competition; Dorothy and Harold Meyerman, supporting the arts and the Palm Springs Art Museum; Myron Clavin, Peggy and Donald Cravens, Rick and Rosine Supple, supporting the arts and the Palm Springs Cultural Center. Hello, everybody. You know, Bob Hope mastered the art of performance. But how do you handle the art of putting together an exhibit on a man who was bigger than life? Well, it has been done, and we are going to talk to Linda Hope, the daughter of Bob Hope, and also Jack Peter, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the World Golf Hall of Fame. Linda, here we are at another exhibit that honors your father and his life. He was the epitome of the art of performance. But the art of putting something together like this just boggles my mind. How long did it take you? How many things did you go through?
Well, actually, this all started back in 2007, and the World Golf Hall of Fame people approached us about doing some kind of an exhibit based on Dad's life. And I think one of the reasons they wanted to have Dad, because he was a great kind of bridge between the entertainer and golf. And he was one of the first that started to popularize the Pro-Am games and the interaction with the crowd and all of that sort of thing. So it was a really happy kind of association, because they sent out a team, Andy and Mary Altman, and they came and really sat with Jan in our office, and Jim Hardy, who was the custodian of all the video stuff, and literally spent hours and hours and hours, days and weeks going through trying to pick out things to tell the story. And they would come back to us with some drawings and with an approach they were thinking about, and we talked about it and changed a little here and there, and you know, because one of the things that I said to them to begin with is that this had to be fun, because that was what Dad was all about, and Mother too. And I think the World Golf Hall of Fame did just a super job with the exhibit that they had there for several years. It was going to be 1 year, and I think it ended up to be about 2.5 years. But out of that came the idea of, hey, let's take Bob Hope on the road again. And so we worked together, and they customized it so that they could put things in boxes and travel it and all of that, and scale down their original exhibit. And it's just been a really wonderful association, and they've done just a wonderful job. And Jack Peter, who was their head guy, really, you know, put the package together in terms of the financing and the you know, how it was going to work and all of that.
It's so incredible, because they're just different exhibits within the exhibit.
Yes.
We have the family life. We have coming to America. and then you have all the photographs, and you have all of the letters and all
Right.
kinds of things. You have the political side of your dad, how he was so friendly with every president, and the video. You talk about videos. I mean, and of course you produced your dad's later shows.
I did for
So-
about 20 some odd years.
I
yeah.
didn't realize you
Yeah.
did it that long. Wow.
Yeah.
So you know
I
about
was a child when I started.
Of course, you got 4. The production that you did was so incredible, and the production on this is the editing is
Yeah.
amazing in every sphere of your dad's life. To
Yeah.
capsulate it in small packages the way it is.
Well, it was a wonderful collaboration, and we were able to, Dad was somewhat of a pack rat, and I'm really noticing this now that I'm kind of going through and clearing out the houses
Yeah.
for eventual sale. And he just kept so many things, and when he started out in his career, he was very blessed to have a wonderful secretary whose name was Marjorie Hughes, and she was just a terrific woman that was absolutely devoted to Dad. And she kept all of these letters that the GIs in World War II wrote to Dad, everything from asking him if he had a good recipe for a Christmas cake, and if they came back to Hollywood, could he get them a date with Betty Grable, and all of this kind of fun stuff, and some very touching things. One that really touched me was a fellow that wrote and said, "Thank you, Bob Hope." He said it meant so much to us because our little platoon or small group of men had marched for hours and hours to get to him in some remote place in one of the islands in the Pacific. And when they got there, the show was finished.
Oh.
And Dad saw them there starting to march out, and he said, "Hey fellas, where are you going?" And they said, "We've got to get back to our base." And Dad said, "Okay." He said, "I'm going to follow you." And he followed them, and it took them an hour or whatever it was to get back there. And he and Francis Langford did a show for them.
That's wonderful.
And, just for that little unit. And so things like that are, make me so proud of my dad and what he did, and to be a little part of it and produce something like this and produce his shows, his specials. It was a great honor for me because it allowed me to really get to know him in a way that I didn't when I was a kid and growing up, and sometimes it was really a pain in the neck to have people come up, "Hey, Bob Hope, can I have your autograph?"
Yeah.
We're here having dinner. I mean, why leave him alone? The kind of thing.
And also, I suppose he was away so much.
And he was away. He traveled a lot, but as the old kind of cliche, it's not how much time, but the quality of the time. And he certainly was a guy of quality time. And I think you certainly interviewed him enough times to know when he was with you, there was nobody else in the room. He just had that one-on-one thing, and he talked to you, and it was. That's the kind of guy he was. I mean, nobody could ever say that Bob Hope was a snob, or there were a lot of bodyguards between
Never.
Bob and the thing. He would go out at night with his golf club and take walks and all kinds of places. And, I think my mother used to, when she traveled with him, would say, "Bob, this is not the greatest downtown Detroit or downtown Cleveland or whatever. Maybe somebody should go with you." And he said, "Hell no." He said, "I've got my golf club, and people are good."
Is there any part of this that is especially meaningful to you?
Well, I mean, I enjoy certainly the family stuff and some of the old footage of us trying to golf, and Dad, telling us about how to do our golf shot and line it up and hold the golf club and all of that. But I think, probably some of the military stuff is very touching, and probably the whole thing is most meaningful to me in that it really shows Dad and his life with my mother and the things that they shared and the scope of his life. I mean, it's people used to ask him, Bob, you know, if you had to do your life over again, what would you do? And he said, I wouldn't have time. And I think that really, that this exhibit sort of epitomizes that and shows you all the variety of things that he was interested in. And the other thing that I'm so impressed about the way they put this up, the World Golf Hall of Fame, is that you get a sense of a man and a woman giving back to their communities, to the people that they grew to love and to serve, the military, and to their country, and just locally, you know, here in the desert. Mother was so happy to be part of this Eisenhower Medical Center and to see it grow and to be such a thriving, important medical facility. Gave her great pleasure, and I know even in her last years, they would come and report to her and talk to her and tell her about things that were going on and what did she think about this, that, and the other thing. And she loved her involvement with all of that. And I remember when Dad was taken to the Eisenhower, he had, I don't remember exactly what it was, but something, and he was there staying for a few days. And she was in decorating the room. She thought the room had run down a little bit, and she was then on to the board, and we've got to fix these things up. So she cared tremendously about her community and about those people that would be served by the Eisenhower, and she wanted them to have a lovely experience, and she felt that it was important that the ambiance, that the decor and everything be right, because it did help in the healing process.
And I'm going to say, in case there are viewers who are new to the Valley or younger and don't know, that your folks gave the land where Eisenhower Medical Center is, and also that your mother was chairman of the board for many years.
Yeah.
And of course it was, and also since this exhibit is being sent around the world by the World Golf Hall of Fame, they both loved golf so much.
Oh, it was their shared passion, and I remember as a kid growing up, it was endless at the dinner table. With Dad would come in and he'd say, hey, you know, I just saw Jimmy Demaret, or I saw Ben Hogan, or whoever it would be. And he told me that if I gripped the club this way and I turned my left hand over, my right hand over, whatever the advice was, and it was just like that. And he would stand up and do demonstrations. And then he'd say, Dolores, try this. And so it was, so we were, oh, please, Dad, get it right.
Do you play golf?
No, I don't. I did play. I mean, we, out of self-defense, every vacation we went on, everything was always golf-centric. And even he loved to do fishing, and we'd go up to Canada, rent a boat, and we'd all go on. And it always had to be someplace that had golf courses so that you could pull in at night. He could sleep and then, you know, fish in the morning and then come back and play golf.
Well, your mother told me that once that he played golf, or played at it. I mean, because you had the little putting or
sure
at your house here in Palm Springs, that he would try to play golf a little bit every day.
Oh,
and with this tremendous schedule of his, I thought,
I
how do you do that? But he did.
Well, I think it's one of the reasons he was able to have that kind of a schedule. And you know, now that Humana has taken over the golf tournament, which, you know, people came up to me last year and said, oh, isn't it a shame that it's not the Bob Hope anymore? It'll always be the Bob Hope. I mean, you know, or the Hope Classic. But Humana is the perfect match, because everything that Dad believed in, which was a healthy life, walking, exercising with the golf and all of that, is exactly what Humana is about. And so I think he would be very happy with the involvement and how things have evolved. And then to have his friend Bill Clinton be the host and be the kind of spiritual father of all of this. And you know, I know how much Dad loved Bill Clinton, and I think the president had a shared feeling for my dad. It's a really good match, and I don't think anybody will let the Bob Hope memory die.
Well, you know, another thing that's so wonderful about this exhibit, and the fact that it will travel for at least another 5 years, and then I suppose be headquartered back at the World Golf Hall of Fame, but it keeps a memory alive for young people who never had the privilege of seeing your father perform.
Well,
and they can watch it all here.
And that's what I love about this exhibit, because it does exactly what Dad wanted for his shows or for anything that he did. He said, let's make it fun. People have got to have fun. And I think you get a sense of his humor and his enjoyment of life and his commitment to the things that he believed in. And I think the thing that we can all take away is that here is a couple that really, their life was about giving back, and in each in their own ways they did what they could, and I think it's a lesson for us all to do that.
And how lucky to have parents like that.
I am blessed.
I want to thank you, Linda. I'm going to take a little walk.
Okay.
And look at some of the exhibit and hope that our viewers can see some of it.
Perfect.
With
and
me.
I hope they come here to the Palm Springs Air Museum and spend some time, because aside from this exhibit, which is wonderful and certainly ties in, I look at these planes and I say, I'm sure Dad flew on a bunch of these planes and certainly was, you know, on the aircraft carriers and all of that. But it's a fun thing and something that's multi-generational. I think children and grandparents, everybody can enjoy this. There'll be something in there for them.
Well, we've looked at so much here, but this exhibit was in England, and I know you went over for it.
I did. Actually, it was there. We had the idea to take Bob Hope home again. And I don't know whether everybody knows, but Dad was born in England, and as he says, and you can see in the thing back there, I left England when I found out I couldn't be king.
I love that. There's so many great quotes here.
Yeah, but we thought that during the Olympics, since some of the Olympic Games were being held in Greenwich, which is just right next door to Eltham, which was where Dad was born, and there's a theater there, the Eltham Little Theater, that Dad supported and bears his name. And so we thought, gee, this would be terrific. And the World Golf Hall of Fame people went over and found the armory there, which seemed to be an appropriate spot, and it was there for several months and very successful. And we, you know, found things that were more British type things. There was a letter from the Queen where she had written specifically to Mother to thank her for little goodies that Mother had sent back to the royal family when they were small. And it just reminds me of a story when Mother and Dad were asked to tea at the Buckingham Palace, and so they were all very thrilled at this lovely honor, and they were going to be having tea with the Queen in her quarters. And so Mother, you know, they arrived at the appointed time, and Mother said, you know, is there a bathroom that I can use? And so they said, yes, it's just up this little landing and it's right there. So she went in and she came out, and there were all these little corgi dogs on the landing. And she immediately got down on her knees and was playing with the dogs and all of that. And then she said she looked up, she saw a pair of legs, and she looked up, and it was the Queen. And she said, oh, Your Majesty. But, you know, then they went on to talk about dogs, which they loved, and it was, you know, a thing that was very close to my mother's heart. As you know, they had several dogs, many poodles, and then most recently, or at the end of her life, Mother had a little Chihuahua that she just adored. So never did I ever remember them being without dogs. And we all, when all of the children, 4 children, were living there at home in high school and so on, we each had our own dog. So Mother would call in a trainer every now and then to try and teach them. And I think the poor man went off in total distress after the experience of trying to get everybody to walk their dogs and do all the stuff. But it was something that was important, you know, the dogs. But to get back to England, I think Dad would have loved to be there almost as much as he loves, I'm sure, being here in Palm Springs. And you know, as you come into this Air Museum, you look up the hill and there's their house. Right. And you know, I think somewhere they're looking down on us and happy to be here, and hoping that their friends in the desert and other people that come as visitors will have a chance to come and see this, because it's great fun.
Everybody should.
Yeah.
And it's going to be here all season.
Yes, until April, I think, early April.
Correct. I think the golf cart will go to Humana during the Humana,
yes,
and then come back.
Yes.
And maybe go to Mission Hills during the LPGA.
Perhaps. But you know, I mean, the LPGA is another, my mother loved that.
Wasn't she an honorary member?
She was, and she made a very generous gift to them, and to help the older original founding members of the LPGA that were, you know, her friend Louise Suggs and a lot Marilyn Smith and a lot of Carol Mann and those women that went out in a station wagon and went around the country and just to play golf. I've often thought it's a great film and would be lots of fun.
It would. You are a producer.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, and you know the stories. I remember that it was the 75th anniversary of the LPGA, or was the 50th at your house here in Palm Springs?
I think it may have been in the 50th.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mother had all the women golfers there, and it was great fun.
I want to thank you, Linda, so much. And I do hope that our viewers will be coming to the Palm Springs Air Museum to see this wonderful, wonderful exhibit on Bob Hope that comes courtesy of the World Golf Hall of Fame. It is a fascinating exhibit. You do not want to miss it. It's really a great exhibit. All right, now, how did the World Golf Hall of Fame and the Bob Hope exhibit come together? I know it's been at the World Golf Hall of Fame.
Well, we first met Linda Hope in 2007. She and a couple of people that she works with at the Legacy made the trip to Florida to visit with us because they had heard about the Hall of Fame and what we were doing, and we got into this conversation about how to really tell the story of Bob Hope and kind of put it on the road, and one thing led to another, and we were in her warehouse in California, and it became this giant project, and it's been a great exhibit.
And of course, his love of golf, and this you all knew.
Right.
So had he been to the World Golf Hall of Fame?
He had not.
Bob?
The Hall of Fame actually has its roots in Pinehurst in the early 70s, and Bob was inducted in the early 80s into that iteration of the Hall of Fame. This current version of the Hall of Fame grandfathered all of those people into our institution, and Bob was one of those, so he is a member of the Hall of Fame in good standing, and golf is frankly the glue with this entire exhibit, because he just loved the game so much.
He did. Now, what about where it's been and where it's going?
Well, this is its 4th stop, the Air Museum. It started at the Green Bay Packers Museum, of all places, in Green Bay, Wisconsin, which is a fun story that we probably don't have time to get into, but thousands and thousands of people saw it in Wisconsin. From there it went to the Gerald R. Ford Museum, Presidential Library Museum in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Phenomenal facility, and a lot of people in Michigan got a chance to see it. From there it went to London. We had a chance to site it just outside of the city in a museum called the Greenwich Heritage Center, which is where Bob was born, in Eltham, England. So there was a real tie to bring Bob back home, which is kind of our party line there. And then it's here now at the Air Museum, and from here it'll go to the Midland Library in Midland, Texas, in April, and then it'll go to the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, Louisiana next summer. So it's part of a 5-year plan, and you know, we're a couple of years into it, so who knows where it'll wind up.
Then after the 5 years, will the majority of this go back to your World Golf Hall of Fame museum?
Well,
or
we're
not?
talking with Linda about the plan for what happens after the run of the show. I mean, if there's enough appetite and enough demand out there for various museums, cultural institutions, we'll keep it going.
That's just great. And what are the things that you are the proudest of?
Well, there's a couple of things in the exhibit that I love. One is his PJ money clip. It's very golf-centric, but you know, money clips are a big thing in the game of golf, and it was very near and dear to him. He carried it his whole life, and it was, in fact, after he passed away, Dolores kept it in a special box in her bedroom. I mean, it was a very precious item for them, so it was really meant a lot to us to get that and put that on display and the story of it. And then the honorary Oscar, you know, I'm an old film buff.
Yeah,
like,
that is so
it's
cute.
cool. It's
He
really
never
cool.
won, although he had announced so many of the Oscar shows.
Right. You know, his joke was that, you know, something about Passover, it always passed him by.
Right.
But no, for him to have that award and be recognized by the Academy was really a big deal, big deal.
Yeah.
So it's great to have that on display, because people don't see those. You see them on
There's
TV.
so much.
Right, right.
And so I'm going to take a look at some more of it.
Great.
And end up, I hope, maybe, by his golf cart,
Perfect.
which I remember so well.
It's a great iconic golf cart. You got to get your picture taken in.
Oh, absolutely. I want to thank you so much, Jack, and it's a great exhibit. And I know you worked on it for how long? And how many people to put a thing
Well, we
like
have a
this
great
together?
staff. We have a great staff at the Hall of Fame. There's we have an exhibit team. We have it's a whole team effort. We had a lot of people working on this. So, Gloria, it's nice to meet you as
Thank
well.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
From the Bob Hope Golf Cart at the World Golf Hall of Fame Bob Hope exhibit at the Palm Springs Air Museum, I'm Gloria Greer. Thank you for being with us. Classic Conversations is brought to you by Palm Springs Life magazine, celebrating 50 years of bringing art and culture to Southern California.
The Michael H. Lord Gallery in Palm Springs is proud to support public television. Learn more about our paintings, photography, and sculpture at michaelhlordgallery.com or at our North Palm Canyon location. Michael H. Lord Gallery, an oasis of contemporary art since 1978.
The Camelot Theaters, bringing you retrospective documentary and art films, foreign and award-winning motion pictures. And the following: Dr. Betty Baxter, certified life coach and consultant; Cash Baxter, the Betty M. Barker Trust; Serp and John Conti Foundation, and the Stephen Philibosian Foundation, supporting the arts and the Virginia Waring International Piano Competition; Myron Clavin, Peggy and Donald Cravens; Rick and Rosine Supple, supporting the arts and the Palm Springs Cultural Center; and Dorothy and Harold Meyerman, supporting the arts and the Palm Springs Art Museum.